My father forced me to marry the corpse of an Empress Dowager for wealth and power. My brother was sacrificed, and my mother fared no better. I, a disabled child living in a pigsty, was the only one who escaped the clutches of both demons and deities. Ghostly marriage for the earthbound spirit, hungry ghosts seeking retribution. What I thought was merely a misguided ritual turned out to be a cover for the true objective. The treasure of the Eastern Mausoleum and the Bagua mirror around my neck was the key to unlocking all its secrets. It took considerable effort for my father to push open the dark red coffin. As the dust settled, it revealed the resting body of a noble lady. She was adorned in an elaborate longevity robe. 3 strands of jade beads graced her neck. A luminous pearl rested in her mouth, and her cheeks still glowed with a faint blush. Her body, far from decaying, remained as perfectly preserved as in life. My father was overjoyed beyond measure. He was a half-baked feng shui master, yet he knew a few tricks. Rumor had it that the Empress Dowager's Eastern Mausoleum was bombarded and desecrated by Commander Sandatai. While it was true that the burial site had been thoroughly looted years ago, when our ancestors secretly entered the mausoleum with the 6th Army for protection, the coffin was already empty. The grave robbing incident caused quite a stir, and even the old villagers still talked about it. They hastily moved the Empress Dowager's coffin away that very night. Coincidentally, a series of earthquakes in June revealed a shocking secret. Beneath the old pigsty lay an ancient tomb. My father's eyes gleamed as he pushed me forward. "Leo, climb up and get the luminous pearl from the Empress Dowager's mouth right now." But I knew that touching a corpse could lead to illness at best, or losing one's soul at worst. Seeing my hesitation, my brother, Dylan, slapped me viciously. "Hurry up! I'm about to take my university entrance exams. I can't touch these unclean things." We were twins, yet he was born perfect. While I was missing 3 fingers on my right hand and was crippled in the leg, fit only to live like a pathetic dog in a pigsty. I was battered and bruised, blood trickling from my mouth, but strangely, a surge of courage welled up within me to retrieve the luminous pearl from the Empress Dowager's mouth. I gripped the Empress Dowager's jaw. Oh! The thick white powder covering her face made her appear from a distance like a young woman with smooth skin. But the moment I touched her, I felt the deep wrinkles etched beneath the powder. They were rough like cracked tree bark, cold like snake scales. My heart pounded. As I bowed my head, I didn't notice a drop of blood from the corner of my mouth fall onto her lip. Perhaps it was the flickering candlelight, casting alternating light and shadow. I felt those crimson lips tremble slightly. I dared not breathe deeply, mostly because of the extreme proximity, able to smell the foul, fishy odor emanating from the Empress Dowager's elegantly coiffed black hair. "Stop dawdling. Get it out." Under my brother's persistent urging, I used all my strength to pry open her jaw, gritting my teeth as I inserted my 3 stunted fingers into the corpse's mouth. Her tongue suddenly slipped out like a rubber band that had lost its elasticity, touching my palm. The cold, slimy sensation sent shivers down my spine. A wave of nausea surged to my head. In that very instant, the luminous pearl, having slipped free, was swallowed by me and became lodged in my throat. There was no wind in the tomb, and the air was stifling. My body was drenched in sweat. I bent my 3 fingers, pushed them into my own mouth, and finally managed to retrieve the pearl. The next day, my father unexpectedly invited me to eat with him. He even asked gently, "Leo, you're almost 18. It's time you settled down and got married." My heart pounded, a premonition of ill omen rising within me. "I've had a fortune teller read your birth chart. It matches perfectly with the Empress Dowager. Tomorrow, we will hold the wedding ceremony." I froze. He wants me to marry who? That ancient, fake corpse? My father, annoyed, tapped his pipe and bellowed, "What the hell do you know? Have you never heard the saying, ghostly marriage for prosperous fortune?" The Empress Dowager is the most noble woman in all the land. Her wood element fate perfectly complements her destiny of unparalleled wealth. Once the ghost marriage is performed and she enters our Wang family lineage, we will become royalty. Your father has a way for her to bless my son, ensuring he passes his university exams and achieves great success. I numbly thought, the Qing dynasty fell ages ago. How could a centuries-old ghost bless people of the modern era? My father held absolute power in the house. No one dared defy him. I cast a pleading glance at my mother, but she worried. What if this gets out? The whole village will mock Leo. How will he ever find a wife later? Truly a model mother, planning far and wide. My brother burst out laughing. "Don't worry, Mom. Last night, I built a tomb near the pigsty. No one will find it. How could a cripple like Leo ever get a wife? Consider this a windfall for you, Mom." I forced a bright smile, praising my brother's cleverness. That scene of a kind mother and filial son sent a chill through my heart. In my mother's eyes, I was merely a burden. When I was in trouble, she quietly pretended not to notice. It was the shrewd survival philosophy of the impoverished. Even my grandfather, who had dedicated his entire life to the family, was thrown into the freezing winter forest by my father to fend for himself, simply because his limbs weren't as agile and he needed regular medication. Grandfather was the only one in the family who loved me. He tried to intervene but was kicked by my father, breaking his ribs. My father continued to kick him, cursing him as a monster. What sin did I commit to give birth to a child like you? If you dare utter another word, I'll discard you too. That night, I was dressed in cheap clothes and pushed into the burial chamber. My father burned a red charm bearing my name and the Empress Dowager's. I was tied up tightly like a glutinous rice cake and shoved into the coffin. You must lie pressed against the Empress Dowager's shoulder until the rooster crows tomorrow morning for the ritual to be complete. My brother stood nearby, smirking. "Well done, kid. From now on, you're the Empress Dowager's horse." I curled my lips in a cold sneer. Before leaving, I overheard my parents whispering, "The Empress Dowager's fate is truly noble, but her fierce star is too strong. It harms husbands and children. Leo going in this time is more risky than safe. But who told him to be born disabled?" My mother sighed. It's his fortune to sacrifice himself for this family. The coarse ropes bound my body tightly. Struggling was useless. the Empress Dowager's corpse's shoulder pressed against me. I glanced over and saw a pale yellow maggot poking its head out of her ear. I don't know how much time had passed, but the red candles in the tomb suddenly flickered and then extinguished. Yet there was no wind in the burial chamber. Lying in the darkness, an unprecedented fear welled up within me. Something wet was slithering into my clothes. I vaguely felt a pair of soft, yet ice-cold hands. They felt me, kneading relentlessly. My entire body stank, my back was drenched in sweat, and my breathing grew rapid and ragged. My head swam, feeling as if I was suffocating. But when that hand touched the object hanging around my neck, it suddenly recoiled as if burned. In that instant, I regained my senses. I looked down and nearly lost my mind. They were clearly the 3-foot-long, sharp-clawed hands of a demon. The bagua mirror around my neck was my grandfather's relic. Years ago, when he was abandoned in the mountains, I secretly brought him bread every day. Knowing he wouldn't survive, he told me to take this item. Our great-grandfather followed Commander Sun, fighting north and south, entering countless tombs and burial chambers. This mirror is for warding off evil. No matter what happens, never take it off. Your filial piety, grandson, your grandfather will remember. I fainted and didn't wake until the next morning, roused by a frantic scream. My mother wailed mournfully, calling out my brother's name. Dylan lay stiff on his bed in the room. His back was bare, stripped of all skin, looking from a distance exactly like a red groom's robe. My father, horrified, dragged me out of the tomb, beating me relentless. Why was it Dylan who consummated the marriage with the Empress Dowager last night? What did you do to him? In my resentment, I blurted out, the bagua mirror worked. My brother and I were born at the same hour on the same day. If it couldn't kill me, it would surely redirect its attack to him. But I dared not speak the truth. I could only hug my head, crying and pleading. Father, you guarded the cave entrance all night. You know I couldn't have gotten out. The important thing now is to save my brother. My father, a mere amateur feng shui master, normally only, handled ghostly marriage arrangements, and had never encountered anything like this. Panicked, he invited a venerable master to help. Master Gong, who was summoned, indeed possessed profound spiritual cultivation. He knew what had happened with a single glance. Old Wang, what outrageous deed have you committed now? He scolded. My father stammered. All ghost marriages are done this way. I followed the ancient texts exactly. Master Gong retorted, even ordinary people need betrothal gifts to marry. What kind of status does the Empress Dowager hold? You want to bring her back as a ghost wife into the Wang family, to be cabbage for your family, without offering any betrothal gifts. What kind of marriage is that? If you want the Empress Dowager to enter your household, you must formally propose, prepare dragon and phoenix offerings, beat gongs and drums, and host a grand banquet for relatives. Not a single thing can be missing. In fact, your entire family might even have to offer their lives as sacrifices to the corpse lady. This declaration stunned our entire family. Previously, when ghost weddings were held in the village, a few plates of food were enough. Why were such elaborate rules suddenly necessary? Seeing my brother's miserable, half-dead state, my mother cursed heartbrokenly. She's old. She was a widowed empress. Now she's a ghost and still so demanding. My brother was lucky to survive in the hospital. When he returned home, his entire body was covered in pus-filled sores, each as large as a broken peach, oozing yellow fluid. He spent all day on the bed, cursing, and when my mother tried to comfort him, he kicked her away. Master Gong advised my father to retrieve the luminous pearl. It's still not too late to stop now. But my father retorted, when I was young, my grandfather told me that during the Republic era, a family accidentally discovered a noble tomb and used a ghost marriage to bind the spirit, making it an earthbound guardian to bless their family with wealth. Everything they did prospered, and as long as they offered annual sacrifices, prosperity for generations was guaranteed. Oh, wealth is sought through danger. So what if our Wang family risks a little to change our destiny? It turned out his words about wanting my brother to succeed were all false. His own ambition for advancement was the only truth. Seeing his stubbornness, Master Gong sighed and produced a list of betrothal gifts. Tell your father to prepare for the wedding. 20 catties of gold ingots, 18 paper palace maids, 100 catties of hell money, 1 set of phoenix robes, 10 sets of locust wood tables and chairs. This is so much. How much will it cost? My father's face paled. Whether marrying someone living or dead, one needs these things. The old Taoist scoffed. Locust wood belongs to the yin realm. If ghosts come to the banquet, where else would they sit if not on locust wood chairs? You're unwilling to invest, yet you desire wealth and nobility. Figure it out yourself. My father hurriedly held him back, promising to prepare everything immediately. A grand wedding requires guests, but the guests at this banquet would not be living. Seeing me about to slip away, Master Gong grabbed me by the collar. Leo, tonight you go to the cemetery and invite the ghosts. I refused, but my father took out his belt and lashed me. You're getting married. Of course you have to do the inviting. Do you expect me to go in your place? I covered my face, burning from the slaps, trying to hide the simmering hatred in my eyes. The cemetery at midnight was chillingly silent, with graves clustered together like mushrooms. I knelt before a desolate tomb, a tattered soul-calling banner tilted to one side, looking grotesque. In the murky darkness, I couldn't see any names, only faded golden characters. Before I left, Master Gong had carefully instructed me that inviting ghosts to a banquet had its own rules. These 3 laws must be remembered. Otherwise, inviting them would be easy, but sending them away would be hard. First, after reciting the invitation for the ghost marriage, you must only kowtow twice, because you and the tomb's occupant are not acquainted. You must not kowtow 3 times. Second, you must leave before dawn. Third, for each tomb, offer only 1 stick of incense. Extinguish it halfway, otherwise the ghosts, once fed, won't know their way back to their graves. I extinguished the incense, but for a long time there was no sound. Around me, only the whistling wind and my own ragged breathing. Suddenly, a sound came from the tomb. My back was drenched in cold sweat. I thought I was hallucinating, but the rustling grew clearer and clearer. Taking a deep breath, I pressed my ear to the tomb, and from inside came several digging sounds. They sounded incredibly real, At first, just a few thumps, but soon after, they unmistakably came from within the coffin. I flinched, falling backward, my legs so weak I couldn't stand. Master Gong had said this was the first step complete. The knocking grew faster and faster, interspersed with mournful cries. My neck prickled with cold, and I stammered, on the 7th day of the 7th month, Leo and Yehinara Yitang are betrothed, forever bound in a blessed union, a watery death full of decay. I invite all of you, certainly. I had invited 100 such tombs. As dawn broke, I hastily ran home. My whole body ached, and my forehead bled incessantly. I cautiously asked my mother for some medicine. She angrily pressed on my wound and scolded, "Just a little scratch, and you dare ask for medicine? Look how miserable your brother is. Why wasn't it you who died?" Her blatant look of disgust confused me. We were both her biological sons. Why did she treat us so differently? My right hand was crippled, but my left hand still wrote beautifully. All of my brother's high-scoring assignments were done by me. In the mountain of evil, filled with paper ghosts, my father set up 70 sets of locust wood tables and chairs, laden with paper glutinous rice cakes and longevity noodles made from hell money. When the auspicious hour arrived, the temperature suddenly dropped. My mother muttered, "Ghosts coming to the banquet? All these fake offerings?" No sooner had she spoken than the paper cakes began to vanish. Countless footprints appeared on the dusty floor. Everyone held their breath. Master Gong announced, "The new bride has arrived." My father urged, "Leo, hurry and welcome the bride." I struggled forward to carry the Empress Dowager in her palanquin. Compared to how she was in the tomb, her body was softer, the stench of decay overwhelming, her limp arm swaying on my shoulder. As an imperial matriarch and noble, the Empress Dowager did not need to bow to my parents. As I bowed, the dead weight made my back arch. In that moment of bowing, I saw a pair of rotting feet right beneath my own. They were my grandfather's feet, lost during forced labor, his shoe ripped open to reveal blood-soaked toes. My grandfather had returned. I shrieked in horror, but his eyes were pale, his face ashen, with 2 long cracks extending from the corners of his mouth almost to his temples. Master Gong exclaimed in alarm, "A hungry ghost coming to the feast is a terrible omen." Grandfather stretched out his arm and choked my father, who rolled his eyes back, his chest heaving violently, his throat hoarse with desperate cries of pain. Master Gong threw a charm into the air and pulled us into the house. My father, having narrowly escaped death, lay trembling on the ground, unable to get up. I stammered, "Master Gong, why is my grandfather like this?" Master Gong, drenched in cold sweat, replied, "That is not your grandfather. That hungry ghost is being influenced by the Empress Dowager's malevolent aura and is starting to cause trouble." Outside, my mother's pathetic wails echoed, her voice long and sorrowful, "Son, I'm so hungry. How could you be so heartless?" 100 ghosts shrieked, surging towards the room, the wooden door rattling violently. My father prostrated himself, begging for help. Master Gong asked with a stern face, "Why did your father turn into a hungry ghost? You must tell me the truth. I will help you with the ritual, but I have my own principles." My mother, out of her mind, interjected, "That old man lived for so long without food or drink That's why he died. Wangi is so cruel. He wouldn't even spare his own son. Master Gong waved his hand. Impudent! Can just anyone in this world easily turn into a hungry ghost? Your family has committed the sin of unfilial impiety, and he did not die a complete death. If he is still alive now, consider it a great stroke of luck, for I can no longer help you. As soon as Master Gong left, my father was like a snake without a head, not daring to step out of the room. Leo, you go outside. You're a virgin, full of yang energy. Before I could react, my father shoved me out. A chilling blast of yin energy struck me, like countless icy hands tearing at my flesh. My skin, my hair stood on end. A half-rotting female ghost appeared before me, her face slowly pressing closer to mine. I squeezed my eyes shut, thinking I was about to be torn apart by the vengeful spirit. But immediately after, a piercing scream echoed. I flung my eyes open. Under the moonlight, grandfather, baring his rotting teeth, smiled at me. Leo, grandfather is here to save you. I truly didn't remember him. Ever since I gained consciousness, my parents had abandoned me countless times. Deserted factories, filthy pigsties, remote wilderness. Each time, it was Granda who diligently sought me out and brought me back. In the winter, when I was 10, my brother pushed me into an icy pond, and I contracted pneumonia. My parents said there was no hope for me. Grandfather, without a word, borrowed a neighbor's tricycle and cycled all day to take me to the county hospital. Leo, hold on, we're almost there. When we reached a steep slope, his back curved like a shrimp, his panting breath in the headwind sounding like a punctured gong. I choked out, Grandfather, don't go to the hospital anymore. It's too expensive, he insisted. Our family. He pulled a red cloth bundle from his pocket, revealing my grandmother's gold ring, a family heirloom. After pawning it, he paid all the hospital fees. I stayed in the hospital for 5 days. The doctor said if I had arrived any later, I might not have survived. When my mother found out, she flew into a rage. Were you pretending to be poor all this time, tricking us out of dowry money? How well did you hide it, planning to save it for that scoundrel Wangi? You ungrateful fake! From then on, my parents hated me even more, not even letting me sit with them at meals. My grandfather's dull, ashen eyes fixed on me. He waved his hand in comfort, then walked into my brother's room. He was screaming frantically on the bed. Leo, what's going on outside? Where are the ghosts? Save me. I sat up coldly. There are no ghosts, just grandfather coming home for a visit. Yes, I invited him back myself. His distorted face turned pale. Are you crazy? You invited 100 ghosts to the wedding feast. But you didn't invite grandfather? What kind of test is that? That year, I secretly brought steamed buns up the mountain while my parents were in the fields. But my brother found out. He locked me in the storeroom. My father, knowing about it, even praised him for doing a good job. For several days, thick snow fell, covering the world in white. The mountain was sealed off. When I found him, he had already starved to death, his mouth full of tree bark his eyes wide open, staring at the sky, lying in the place where we often met. Later, my brother showed off a new pair of shoes. Well, my mother said, one less mouth to feed. Now I have money to buy you athletic shoes. Hey, a new life, a justifiable exchange. Right? Do you know that the wronged souls of those who starve to death are considered prematurely departed? The king of hell won't take them. I had to give him a home. Under his horrified gaze, I stuck half an incense stick at the head of his bed. You are the eldest grandson. It's your turn to be filial now. It wasn't until the rooster crowed that my father dared to step out of the room. That night, he killed the only rooster in the house and smeared its blood all over himself. Rooster blood can ward off evil. My mother earnestly asked for some, but he kicked her. What good is it for women? Get out of here. After that, my mother transformed into a different person. She became afraid of light, always cowering in a corner of the house, looking at my father with strange baring teeth smiles. Master Gong secretly sought me out, his face full of hidden meaning. Leo, do you know why the 100 ghosts haven't returned to their graves? I went to the desolate cemetery, and all the mounds of earth have been burned to ashes. I squatted by the wood-burning stove, baring my black teeth, smiling naively. I remember everything you said, Master. It must have been the strong wind and rain that blew them away. Although the ghost marriage encountered problems, it was ultimately completed. My father took a handful of the Empress Dowager's ashes to make a spirit tablet, which he carried with him. From then on, his luck, both good and bad, soared like a kite in the wind. He won 7 or 8 gambling rounds in a row. When people at the casino asked for his secret, he boasted, "My family has welcomed a noble daughter-in-law." Everyone immediately grew envious, but who knew that noble daughter-in-law was actually a corpse slave? Seeing the family's newfound wealth, my mother immediately demanded that my brother undergo skin grafting surgery. She asked the doctor, "How can a remote village like this handle it? We need to go to a big city. If there's not enough money, sell a kidney. Leo is still young. He can live with 1 kidney. It's only natural for brothers to help each other." My eyelids twitched, speechless. My father objected. He has a wife now, and the Empress Dowager is protecting our family. What good is it fit for Dylan to go to the hospital now? My brother now only knew how to eat all day. He ate incessantly, his belly distended like a sack of rice, even devouring rotten vegetables from the ground, his stomach bulging like a 5-month pregnant woman. All day he would point into thin air, his face twisted in a grotesque expression, hissing, "Father, grandfather has come home to eat." My father, already having a flaw in his heart, now hated him even more. He brought out more betrothal gifts to invite Master Gong to exorcise the spirit. "Your Dylan is possessed by a hungry ghost. Hungry ghosts don't care about their lives. They will eat anything until their bellies burst, and they die." My mother nearly fainted. "Your own grandson? And you have the heart to harm him? That old man has lost all his conscience, struck by lightning." She was about to curse further when Master Gong cut her off. "If you dare to utter another ill word, even the gods won't be able to save your son. Choose an auspicious day to retrieve your father's remains and arrange for his proper burial. Then we can proceed." Fortunately, my father had been making money recently. Neighbors in the village, seeing the family arranging the burial, thought he was being filial and praised his devotion. Before the ritual, my brother carelessly ran into the pigsty, plunging his head into a pile of rotten leftover food and devouring it greedily. The piglets scattered in fright. His eyes showed a crazy greed, as if he had never eaten in his life. The whole family struggled to pull him out. The old Taoist tied a rope to the ceiling beam and hung my brother upside down. Incense burners adorned the ritual table. My brother's emaciated body dangled like a pig about to be butchered, each sway making the house creak. To drive away a hungry ghost, one must kneel before the god of food, prepare a bowl of rice, and stick a pair of chopsticks upright in the middle. If the chopsticks fall towards the door, it means the ghost has left. To bid the hungry ghost farewell, the chopsticks must stand balanced. If it still refuses, seeing this, I quickly asked, "Master Gong, is there any other way? If that still doesn't work, there's one last method." Master Gong patted my brother's flabby belly. "Hungry ghosts fear hunger the most. Starve it for 8 days. When it's unbearably hungry, it will leave on its own." The last chopstick fell, but it didn't fall towards the door or the window. Instead, it leaned towards my father. We had tried it 3 times, and each time was the same. This meant my father was the next to be possessed. He broke out in a cold sweat, immediately deciding to starve my brother to death. My mother, heartbroken, sprang up to argue with him. 8 days. Are you really going to starve your own son? My father furiously locked the room door and hid the key. He even cursed at me, Leo. If your mother tries to secretly bring him anything to eat, she's not allowed. Not even a drop of water, I replied. Master Gong said, a small bowl of water is fine. If the ghost leaves, but the person dies. What's the point? Just 3 days later, my brother was screaming tragically. I brought water in, and he thrashed desperately. His face, plump with bloated flesh and distorted, had turned into that of a true beast. Neighbors, disturbed by the noise, frequently knocked on our door. My father had to explain. Dylan is possessed by a demon and is in isolation. My mother diligently guarded the room door, but every time she tried to sneak food in, my father caught her. He sincerely advised her to save him. You must overcome this hurdle. Indulging him will harm him. She dropped a steamed bun, and I slapped her with a resounding smack. He's your biological son. How can you be so heartless? A sweet taste of blood filled my mouth. I licked my lips, a strange sensation rising within me. Numbness, perhaps? Maybe. I simply replied softly, "My character is something I learned from my parents." My mother cursed and walked away. But by the 6th day, my brother suddenly fell silent. He was dead. He was dead. His belly had burst open, blood mixed with fat splattering everywhere. My mother, having been beaten by my father, fainted from pain and despair. She had secretly thrown a bun to her son. Who knew it would come to this? What if he ate a few buns? It's been 6 days. What difference would one piece make? My father cursed her foolishness, beat her mercilessly, then left her to handle the funeral alone while he left the house. Recently, my father had earned quite a lot of money. I keenly noticed that the spirit tablet on his chest had grown darker than before. Dark smoke, like wriggling worms, crawl into his skin and flesh. I could only manage a faint smile. Exactly on the 7th day of my brother's mourning, the house gate became boisterous as my father returned. He brought back a beautiful woman on a brand new motorcycle. Madam Sun, a graceful and charming widow in her early 30s, intimately embraced my father's waist with both hands. The main issue was that she was pregnant. My father was as proud as a victorious general. The neighbors gathered, whispering, "Isn't Madam Sun's husband old Chen, who used to work at the Wang family's quarry? 6 months ago, he had an accident in the mine. They were sworn brothers, yet he's now with his friend's wife. Do you know? Wang Yi's grandfather was left by him to die in the mountains. Is this real or a joke? You can't just spread rumors like that. Why would I lie to you? I saw him with my own eyes when he went to chop wood in the mountains. Now his son died young. Truly, evil begets evil." My mother ground her teeth, her face distorted with resentment. She grabbed a cleaver and charged. "You damn Wang Guy! Your son died, and you didn't even bother to come back. Turns out you were having an affair." Her body was frail, her steps faltering. How could she possibly contend with my father? He slapped her, and then pulled Madam Sun into the room. That woman showed no shame, staying right in our house. Her figure was plump, and she innocently washed her hair in the yard, her wet clothes clinging to her, revealing her fair skin. As I walked past, her gaze turned lustful. She giggled coquettishly. "Leo, do you like looking? From now on, Auntie will let you look all you want." My father had never bought me a single new piece of clothing, but all the delicacies and rare items went to that widow. My mother was consumed by insane jealousy. She tore Madam Sun's clothes and cursed her terribly. "你的零钱的盘被踢." "Andin." "Ah!" Madam Sun put her hands on her hips and scoffed. "Wang Yi loves me. If you have the guts, go talk to him. Now both your children, one died a wrongful death, and the other is a useless cripple. What do you have to compare with me?" She proudly thrust out her belly. My father claimed it was his child, which was why he openly brought her home. My mother slumped to the ground, crying and wailing my brother's name. That night, she put an entire bottle of rat poison into the dinner. Fortunately, the smell of the poison was too pungent. My father immediately detected it upon tasting. Enraged, he tied my mother tightly with 5 ropes and locked her in the storeroom. That night, I brought a bowl of porridge to visit her. Her eyes were deeply sunken, gleaming with a vacant look. I scooped a spoonful of cool porridge to her mouth. She swallowed it, then spat it directly into my face. I wiped my face and set the bowl down. "I've always wondered. Both my older brother and I are your biological children. Why have you never treated me like a human being?" My mother gave a cold laugh. "When you were born, the fortune teller read your destiny. Of the 2 children, one was destined to be a top scholar, wealthy and noble, while the other was a useless parasite waiting to die. That's why, as soon as you were born, I threw you into the pigsty. Luckily, Grandfather heard your cries and came to save you, or I wouldn't have escaped." Those reckless words had brutally determined my fate. I asked again, did the fortune teller specify which one would prosper? My mother replied, as if it were obvious, "No, but how could you, crippled as you are, ever prosper?" Of course, it was Dylan. I chuckled, then told her, "For all these years, you thought Dylan had a superhuman memory. His assignments were all done by me. I even took his final exams for him. With my left hand, of course." In her astonished eyes, I cut the ropes that bound her. "I've contacted your brother. Go back to your maiden home, Mother, and don't ever come back. Dylan wasn't killed by a hungry ghost either. I knew you would secretly try to give him food. That night, I picked up the bun you threw in. But shortly after, Father came in again." I explained in a calm tone, it wasn't about giving him food. To refine the corpse, lady into an earthbound spirit, and continuously borrow her luck for wealth. A price must be paid. Dylan was the first sacrifice. I looked at her, my eyes blazing, staring intently at her. "And the next target is you, Mother. When I was little, I sadly asked, 'Grandfather, what's the point of a cripple like me living?' He told me that when he was born, in times of war and famine, people who were perfectly healthy one moment could be dismembered corpses the next. For him, simply surviving was a blessing. 'Leo,' he said, 'if you can't use your right hand, use your left. If you can't use your hands, you can even use your toes to ride. People live one lifetime. Grass, one season. To live as stubbornly as a leech, why bother being useful?' His hand gently stroked my head. It was the first time I felt I deserved to be loved unconditionally. The next day, my mother returned to her maiden home. This was the land she had traded her whole life for. How could she bear to leave? She took her own life, dressed in her red clothes, and lay neatly in my brother's yet-to-be-buried coffin, her blood continuously seeping into his corpse. Master Gong sighed, lying in a corpse-lined coffin. She intends to become a vengeful ghost seeking retribution. My father, his face devoid of any remorse, kicked the coffin with glee. Her blood and resentment have defiled the vessel the Empress Dowager was meant to receive. My father impatiently lit the coffin on fire. A few days prior, Madam Sun had urged him to buy a fireworks factory. "Brother Wang, look, I worked so hard to contact the factory owner. If you buy that fireworks factory, with the government support policies, it's sure to be profitable in the future." With so much money involved, my father was tempted. But he remembered Master Gong's advice. Worshipping the Empress Dowager must be done slowly. "Do you want to be a gambler's stooge your whole life?" Madam Sun patted her belly, pouting, "Do you want my son to be ridiculed as a child of a swindler?" This remark hit a raw nerve. My father touched the spirit tablet in his pocket, gritted his teeth, and decided, "All right, buy it then. Go make the deposit." I clearly saw the black spiritual energy on the tablet had deeply penetrated his skin and burrowed into his heart. On a windy, moonlit night, my father, knife in hand, crept into my bed. He mumbled an incantation, the raised blade gleaming with a cold light. "Empress Dowager above, bless your descendants with eternal prosperity." He slashed violently at empty air. Beneath the blanket was only a pillow. I burst from the shadows, restraining him. My father struggled fiercely, unaware that my strength had long surpassed his. "Never what, sir?" I clamped his arms tight, leaned down, and whispered into his ear, "Father, let me tell you a secret. This Empress Dowager's tomb is a fake. Our great-grandfather only said that when the Sixth Army entered the Eastern Mausoleum, the Empress Dowager's body was gone. But he didn't mention that the loyalists of yesteryear had refined 10 such bodies, each a lifelike puppet corpse to deceive the world. These puppet corpses were made from living people. The luminous pearl in her mouth was formed from millions of insects, nourishing the soul and preserving wealth, but only temporary prosperity. Whoever enjoys one part must repay 10. The backlash has begun, Father. How do you feel? You unfilial son! You knew and didn't tell me." My father roared in fury, but his entire body went limp. "Unable to move," he pleaded. Red-faced, "Leo, I know I was wrong. Release me. Our family is wealthy now. Isn't it all for you?" Just then, the pregnant Madame Sun walked in. My father rejoiced. "My child, save me." Madame Sun closed the door and approached me. "Leo, leave the rest to me." My father's face, "You too." It turned out Madame Sun's husband was old Chen, who had worked in the same mine as my father. Old Chen had diligently saved up several gold bars. My father, deep in gambling debt at the time, and lusting after old Chen's wife, had suffocated old Chen in the mine and stolen the gold. Madame Sun picked up a fallen axe. "The child in my belly is old Chen's. Father, for my child's sake, my husband and I have died together." I stopped her. "Hatred will consume the virtue of the child in your womb. Besides, retribution has already arrived. In the soaring black smoke filled with resentment, my brother slowly crawled out, dragging his bloody intestines, and lunged at father. Grandfather. My mother. Old Chen and my mother appeared one after another, pushing aside the waves of horrified screams. I slammed the room door shut, looked up, and the dark clouds had just dispersed. Yes, the crescent moon peeked through. "The moon is beautiful tonight, isn't it?" I took Madame Sun far away, advising her never to return. Then, using my brother's identity, I registered for high school in another county. Before long, I became a final-year student. On the day of my father's burial, Master Gong also arrived, muttering a few words of regret. I scoffed. Regret what? Didn't the great master already know that tomb was a fake corpse and foresee the outcome? A puppet corpse. Whoever refines it dies. I don't believe he was completely uninvolved. The Taoist stroked his silver beard, his voice serene. Ambition was too great. Even warnings were useless. Would I ever incite your father to kill? I warned him many times. Always leave a way out in whatever you do. Don't be impetuous. Afterward, the Taoist visited my school several times, bringing snacks and asking about my studies. The Wang family has a connection with me. Your grandfather once served in Commander Sun Dianying's 6th Army. His gaze then fell upon the Bagua mirror around my neck. Your great-grandfather was a trusted bodyguard of the commander back then. Surely he didn't leave nothing for his family. I told him, if he did, my family wouldn't have ended up like this. The old Taoist's voice became mysterious. Back then, they plundered the Eastern Mausoleum, hauling treasures for 3 days and 3 nights without end. After deducting military expenses, Sun Dianying used the gold and silver he buried to bribe officials everywhere. But that amount was just a drop in the ocean compared to the treasures within the mausoleum itself. He was captured, but never revealed the location of the remaining treasure. Little Wang, if you apprentice yourself to me, I will lead you to find the Eastern Mausoleum treasure. I thought this wasn't something a high school student should be thinking about. I neither overtly refused nor explicitly agreed. Things a high school student shouldn't think about, meaning a university student can. Master Gong praised me highly, saying that nowadays academic qualifications are paramount. Even Taoist practitioners like him have to attend cultivation academies for courses. After seeing him off, my thoughts returned to a month ago. On that snowy mountain, Grandfather had given me the Bagua mirror, which wards off evil and all poisons, a book, and a heartfelt message. Leo, Commander Sun, once divided the key to the Eastern Mausoleum treasure into 2 parts, entrusting them to his 2 most trusted bodyguards. I was one of them, but Captain Zhang betrayed him midway, colluding with the enemy to steal the token. I narrowly escaped death, fearing implication, and hid in this impoverished village, leaving only 1 part of the treasure map within the Bagua mirror. I didn't understand. Then, Grandfather, did you never think of finding the treasure? Grandfather gave a bitter laugh. I did. 9 parts death, 1 part life. My body became crippled. So, you also possess this treasure secret. You must be a descendant of the other trusted bodyguard. And why is Master Gong named Chan? The character Gong, Palace, and Zhang bowstring spread, are combined to make the surname. The vast sky at this moment was where the stars truly shone. I turned the page of my textbook and couldn't help but laugh out loud. Excellent. Finally, I found you. My treasure.